Hey, we watched the first 2 episodes of Gakuen Babysitters, and it was baby-rific. Uh, Neither of us particularly disliked this show. We were just kind of like, I don't feel compelled to watch all of this. I feel as though I have gotten my fill.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything you want to say about it?
If you want to see cute babies, you can't really go wrong with this show. It's about this middle school boy who his parents died, sob story, whatever. You're supposed to like him. He has a little brother who's adorable.
He's very milquetoast. He's just
Yeah.
kind of a main guy. He's someone who can handle a bunch of babies.
Yeah.
Quite
I can see
easily.
little girls being like, that is a cute boy.
Do you think this is like a shoujo series?
Yeah.
Because it's very like slice of lifey.
But all the babysitters are pretty boys.
I guess. Yeah, now that you mention it. I didn't really think of it that way. I just thought of it as like a cute little baby show.
They're all like cute, like the Oren High School Host Club guys. They're like that. They're like feminine-ish guys.
I guess so.
Yeah, and I don't know. I didn't really think it was that funny. There was one of the older brothers kept punching him.
I wasn't even sure if it was like. It didn't seem like it was really even meant to be funny. It's just kind of like an Iyashike, like calm, like it's just about looking at cute babies, really.
Yeah.
Like the main appeal is that the babies are
they
cute.
try to make jokes though. They're like, oh, the headmaster looks like a sheep.
Yeah.
And then they keep making that joke, and it's like, okay.
I didn't even register it as like attempting to make a joke so much as just like dialogue that existed for the sake of itself.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like that there's no real like story going on. Like this first half of episode 2 introduced this like really uptight girl, and like I guess there was some story in as much as she is like upset that nobody likes her because she's too stuck up. Or in the first episode, like the reveal of the fact that the kids like, you know, are dealing with the trauma of their parents dying. Like there's little moments like that where it's like there's some emotions in there, but like aside from those scenes, it's pretty much just like the most pure definition of slice of life. Like nothing, no attempt to be especially funny. It's just like relax and look at these cute babies. Don't you like cute babies? And I do. I like cute babies, but you know, it's the kind of thing where you think, I don't need this show to get my fill of cute babies.
No.
I can do something else. I feel comfortable. I could literally, if you had told me that you were wanting to watch this whole show, I would have watched it. And if you told me you didn't want to watch it, I wasn't going to watch it. And so as soon as you were like, I don't know, I was like, all right.
It's pretty generic in my opinion.
Yeah.
There's a crowd that would like it. It's not offensive.
No.
But it's not great. And I didn't think the babies were that cute.
The biggest problem I have is that the babies aren't that believable.
No.
Because, like, they look like babies. Like, there's one that's like an outright infant. The others look like they are at most, like, 1.5, 2. You know, like, none of them looks like they're 3 years old. But, like, they can all walk. They can all talk. And, like, while they're not, like, at adult level rationale, obviously. They're too easy in a way. Like they're not enough of a hassle. They're like, it's like the show wanted them to be as adorable as possible and doesn't lean in too hard on the fact that it's like one kid trying to take care of 6 babies. He doesn't even
would be
struggle.
Themselves all
the
time.
Yeah, like are they all potty trained? What's going on with that? We never even have any mention of them changing diapers. Like
that's not cute.
So it's just like, look at the cute babies, and then the weird part is that the babies, I mean, they're babies. I don't expect them to have much personality. There's, like, the one kid who's, like, kind of rambunctious, and the others are all just, like, basically there. At least in these 2 episodes. Maybe they'll get spotlight episodes, I don't know, but, like, most of the focus, characterization-wise, has been on the older cast. And, oh, God, I keep burping. Fucking garlic. Disgusting fucking garlic burps. Most of the older cast is not very interesting, and like aside from the main character being like just kind of a wet blanket and the adults not really having much personality, the only 2 characters other than them who do get fleshed out are both assholes. You've got the super serious girl who I immediately couldn't stand because she is too serious, and like, I guess it's kind of, I don't know if I'd call it moe, that like she like gets so, she like starts crying about how like nobody likes her. I was like, well, just stop being a bitch.
Yeah.
And then there's the boy who's the older brother of one of the kids who just keeps hitting him, and like, the show is clearly not okay with this. Like, the main character is always like, dude, you gotta stop hitting your kid brother. But he keeps doing it, and the kid brother, like, you know, clearly is the reason that he's such a brat is because he comes from that kind of
He's repeating the cycle.
abusive relationship.
His mom, who's a teacher, you see like a flashback, is hitting him in the same way.
The mom hits the older brother. So it's like, okay, so this is a family where everybody's hitting each other. Great. Like, it's like uncomfortable. And it's like, even though the show is, it's weird. On the one hand, I respect that it's being real about shit, because yeah, people hit their fucking kids, and you just gotta live in the same world with those people. But it's like, it's such a serious thing to have in the middle of a lighthearted show. You know,
and
I mean,
it's happened a lot.
Yeah, he's hit him like 5 times. And it's just like, jeez. And like every time the main character's like, hey bro, stop hitting your brother, I'm just like, maybe sit him down for a minute and like, let's talk about why you shouldn't hit your brother, you know? Because it's obvious that that's why that kid is so rambunctious. Like, that's what makes it interesting, is that the show clearly understands that that is a cycle, that like, if you hit someone, they will then think it's okay to hit people, but like, it's not doing anything about it. So that's weird. But anyway, yeah, whatever. Other than that, it's a cute show, I guess.
Hookto Precure has a cuter baby, so if you want to watch an anime with a cute baby, watch Precure. If you want to watch an anime about a bunch of cute babies being taken care of by cute middle school boys, maybe watch this show. If not, skip it.
Alrighty, we watched Liz and the Blue Bird, and it was one of the most boring, uninteresting movies I've ever sat through all the way. What did you think?
It was pretty.
It wasn't even that pretty compared to what I expected.
They played the skin flute.
You know, like, I don't get it. I didn't really get what the hell the point was. It was 90 minutes of a sad autistic girl following some Genki girl around and being sad and looking like a fucking beaten puppy in some commercial for fucking animal rescues for 90 minutes.
That aspect of the relationship was kind of painful, and like, I get that they were trying to explore like the boundaries of these two girls' relationships and stuff, but like, in reality, I don't think that somebody would put up with that kind of behavior. Like,
I mean, nothing about this resembles reality.
Well, that's
really.
true. That's true.
Like, the whole, like, the way that characters act, or like just the whole attitude of the school and people
I don't
is
know.
like,
in real life, like, somebody would have intervened on either of the girls' probably behalves and been like, hey, the relationship that you guys have is kind of toxic and you're holding each other back and it's uncomfortable to be around.
I don't know about all that. I didn't even really get a sense that they had a, like, if I was observing it from the outside, I would have thought that they weren't even friends.
Well, I would have been like, this one girl obviously is up your ass and she like wants to go to the same college as you and is like always staring at you, and
I mean, somebody would have to notice that she was staring.
I don't know,
at her.
It seems like her other friends, like, you know, had picked up on it, and there was a scene where one of Nozomi, I think her name is, her friends was just like, hey,
well, I guess everybody knows
that. You can't do that. You can't lead her on like that.
Yeah, I guess they all know their story.
It took a while for that to happen.
Watching this movie, I was just in a state of, like, why is this a story? Kind of. Like, okay, the main girl, like, easily relatable to me because her attitude is just basically what mine was in high school, of like, just stare at you blankly and say nothing. you know? And, like, she clearly is just not somebody who knows how to communicate, really. She's just kind of a spurg. Like, that's basically her whole personality is...
Yeah.
She's just a sad spurg girl. And, like, the idea of her just, like, clinging to this other girl and, like, just following her around and doing whatever she does, like... That's relatable to me as well, because I'm the type of person who would rather just follow someone around and, like, do what they do, you know? Rather than having to come up with my own things to do, sort of. Especially back then. So, like, when I looked at them, I didn't think there was anything wrong or noteworthy about their relationship. It just seemed like, yeah, this spurgy girl is following this other girl around. It seems fine for both of them. I don't see any problems here. I don't really get what she's so sad about.
Similar positions too. I'd say both of the girls. Like when I was in college, I had a female friend who was younger than me who followed me around all the time and was just like happy that I was giving her the time of day, and it ended up like ruining our friendship because she didn't have like, it was uncomfortable for me. And I've also, when I was in high school, like I was really shy and had a lot of trouble talking to people, and like I never really followed anybody around like that, but I could see possibly doing that if I felt comfortable enough. But I don't know, it just made me feel uncomfortable because this, like, it's not a relationship that I would want to partake in with somebody else. And then there was the scene at the end when, like, she was, like, hugging her and telling, like, they were doing the I love you hug, and she was, like, lezzing out, and it was just... like, why is this happening?
Lezzing out. Okay, I guess what's difficult for me about this movie is that, like, it's hard for me to accept the basic premise of this movie. Because, like, it didn't seem to me like either of them was really in a position where they were having trouble with this relationship. Like, it seemed as though Mizore was content to follow... the other girl around, Nozomi, and Nozomi was fine with that. She had no problem with Mizore. She's just like, yeah, this is my friend. She's, you know, she's not as much of a bitch as she seems like just because she's not talking, you know? Like, you can hang out with her, she's fine. And they're just kind of friends, and that's just happening through the early part of the movie. And then we get to a point where we find out that the one girl's planning to go to music school, and the other girl is planning to follow her. Seems fine. And then the one girl's like, oh, I actually don't want to go to music school. And you're like, okay, well, why? Why did she not want to go to music school? And then she reveals to the other girl, she's like, oh, you've always been way better than me. You're the one who really needs to go to music school. I'm just going to go to regular college. I'm like lost in the maelstrom of like this idea that one of them is leaving the other behind, but like who is leaving who behind keeps sort of shifting gears throughout the movie, and like the story of Liz and the Blue Bird does not help because I don't accept the premise of the fairy tale, which is that Liz determines seemingly that the Blue Bird needs to be free because she has wings and she could fly and she could explore the world, and the Blue Bird's like, I don't really care about that. I just want to live with you. And she's like, oh, but I'll be limiting you by you staying here. And it's like, who cares? She wants to live with you. So obviously it's not bothering her that she's not flying. So like the whole idea that she needs to free the Blue Bird fell on deaf ears to me, and then that made the metaphor as applied to the movie itself confusing. Because it's like, why do these two why do they even need to have a confrontation about this? Like, what exactly is the problem here? That the one girl wants to go to another school and she, like, so I guess ultimately, in the end, the idea is that Mizore is going to go to music school and not Nozomi, right? If I have their names right. Because she put down, like, a college book at the end, like I'm going to investigate regular colleges. and assumably the
You
other
don't
girl
really
will go
ever
to
show
music
what
school.
she's gonna do. Like, you didn't even turn in a career sheet. Like, I don't know if she necessarily wanted to go to music school except for the fact that her friend was gonna be there. So, and I don't think, like, it really did a lot to explore, like, her beyond that relationship. So I don't know. I just assume that, yeah, she might just go to music school because she's really talented and the other girl just will go to regular school, but does it really matter? Like,
I don't know.
I don't know. I didn't really like the metaphor with the storybook. Like, the storybook scenes were beautiful, but,
Yeah.
like, the bluebird was Ponyo. She was Blue
She
Ponyo.
is just Ponyo, which is really funny. Those scenes just felt really like a fucking waste of time to me. Because it's like we get told the whole story at the beginning of the movie. And then we keep cutting away to those scenes. And I guess they were meant to metaphorically represent whatever was happening in the story at that point. But, like, why? Why do we need that reinforcement? Why do we need to keep revisiting the story that we've already heard the whole story? And then at the end, it's sort of like, I don't know if it was recontextualizing it or if the book was explicit about this. Because in the beginning, it's kind of suggested that the bluebird just flew away. And then when they go to the last Liz and the Bluebird segment...
Yeah, and that's why the one girl thought that, you know, she was Liz. She, like, connected with Liz because she didn't want her friend to leave, and she wanted to kind of, like, have more control, I guess. Yeah. But if Liz was releasing the Bluebird in the story...
Then it makes a huge difference.
It makes no sense why she would connect with Liz.
Right. So was that just a different interpretation of the story that the teacher was telling her to imagine? Or was that actually, like, the more... Because we don't literally have the story read to us. So, like, it's unclear whether that is how it actually goes down or not. Because they're sort of suggesting that that is the intention of the story, because that's what the intention of the song is that they're playing. Yeah. You know, that's how you play the song correctly, is to interpret the story this way. So if that is what the interpretation always was, then yeah, like, why would it take them that long to realize that they were the other roles in the story?
Maybe it's really vague in the story, but if it's so vague, then I don't see why they needed to, like, waste so much time comparing themselves and drawing parallels to characters that really don't connect with them. Like, I don't think either girl, like, acted like a bluebird in the movie.
I mean, that's the thing. It's also, like, the story is a fucking fairy tale. Yeah. So, like, even connecting it to themselves is, like heavy-handed.
Having the fairy tale just, like, added an extra layer of drama in their relationship, and, like, if they never even explored this idea, would their friendship have even been tested?
It was also really corny to me that, like, it directly... Like, because of the fact that they relate to the story, it directly is obvious in how they play their instruments. It's like, you can just analyze their playing and figure out the nature of their relationship and what's going on and, like, exactly what needs to be fixed in order for them to play well. Yeah. Like, it's just too much, because I don't feel that in reality... And, I mean, again, this is a heightened reality. It's anime. I expect there to be some ridiculousness, but when you have a movie that is mostly trying to just be like a grounded character study, but then you introduce this element of like, I'm listening to the performance and I'm singling out that the oboe and the flute are not having enough of a conversation together, and it just happens to be because these two girls have this emotional disconnect going on between each other. It's like, would that even necessarily affect how they understand how they play their instruments? Like, wouldn't you compartmentalize those as two different things in your mind? You know? Like, do you have to... Does the relationship you have with a person necessarily affect the way that the two of you play when you know logically how the song is meant to be played? You know? Like, does it make them incapable of doing it correctly after the teacher tells them, like, here's what you're both doing wrong, and then they continue to do it wrong because they have not resolved the emotional conflict?
I mean, I think it's just for the sake of the story. Like, there's plenty of bands who have fights, who go on and perform just fine, so...
I know there's lots of people who are going to be like, I had no problem with any of this and you're being an asshole, but, like, it's just, I can't buy it. Like, for me, this brand of emotional storytelling doesn't resonate with me at all. It just comes off as corny to me.
Yeah.
It comes off as unrealistic and unbelievable when, like, the characters are literally, like, performing their exact emotions every single time they pick up their instruments. Like, it's so easy to just translate that directly into sound, you know, like, as somebody who myself, like, you know, performs music, like, it's almost difficult to actually convey your emotions in a song. Like, you know, I write sad lyrics all the time, and trying to actually perform it, like, the act of practicing something over and over again, it erases those emotions, because you have the frustration of trying to get it right. You have the, like, you know, the desire to make an emotion come through when you're not necessarily in the same headspace as when you wrote it, or, you know, you don't necessarily, like, connect to the same emotion every single time you're performing it. It's like you're in different modes and different headspaces, and just the thought that, like, someone's exacting emotions and personality are going to be, like, so inherent to how they play that they can't even hide it, that, like, they can't move past something that has a logical explanation of how you're supposed to do it, where the teacher literally tells them, like, here's what you're doing wrong, but, like, they can't get it right until they change their understanding of the emotions. It's just, like, it's just difficult for me, you know?
Yeah, I don't know if they were playing, like, just sheet music that was a solo, or if they were doing kind of like an interpretive solo, because that might...
He did say that, like, he said there's nuances that aren't represented in the sheet music, and you need to be able to read between the lines, is what he told them.
Yeah.
And, like, that's fine and all, but he tells them what they need to do. He says, like, this is, like, you need to be, like, doing, like, more of a call and response, and you need to be, like, interpreting it this way.
Yeah. I
you know?
mean, I don't have as much of a problem with that as you do. Like, I think it does help kind of show that the relationship these two have go beyond just, like, the physical realm, and, like, that what they're playing is tied to their emotions. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's just, I didn't really find either character to be that engaging, and I thought the story was kind
boring
of
as fuck.
really slow. But I did really like the sound design of this movie, and I thought it was really pretty.
I mean, the movie is mostly just, like, literally staring at this one girl's face. Like, most of it is just this sad puppy girl staring into the camera,
Yeah.
fixating on her face over and over and over and over again as she longfully stares at her friend. And, like, literally the first, like, 40 minutes of the movie is almost exclusively either this girl staring at her friend or the Liz and the Bluebird scenes, which feel pointless. And the whole time, it's like, okay, so I guess this must all be building to something, but it's building to something very basic and uninteresting to me. Like, I don't know. I just don't get how this is a 90-minute movie, you know? Like, I don't get how this is a story that takes this amount of time to tell, where it just felt extremely repetitive, and, like, there wasn't any new nuance being added to the characters by showing them again and again. Like, I felt as though I understood both of their personalities immediately, and then it was just repeating itself. It was just, here's another scene of her wishing that she... staring at her friend. Here's another scene of her staring at her friend. Here's another scene of her staring at her friend. And, here's a scene of them not being able to do the performance correctly. Here's another scene of them not being able to do the performance correctly. Oh, they did the performance correctly, then they have a big, like, I don't know, would you call it a fight? The one girl, like, just kind of comes at the other girl, and then they sort of resolve it,
Yeah.
and then it's over. And it's like, alright, oh, I guess they were both bluebirds in the end, because it's two bluebirds flying off. I'm sorry. I have to apologize because I know that, like, everything I'm saying I'm going to be taken to task for. Because there's people who really love this movie and who probably feel a lot of important emotions to themselves. I had no interest. Like, nothing grabbed me. I was just yawning and, like, wanting to be over the whole time. I didn't think it was excitingly directed. Like, as people are gonna be like, oh, but Yamada Naoko. It's like, yeah, but why I like Yamada Naoko is because she does interesting things, and none of that was present in this movie. You didn't have the pacing and timing of shots that you have in K-On! And Tamako Market, which are my favorite things that she's done. And it wasn't like overwhelmingly, heart-stoppingly beautiful like Koi no Katachi, which also had lots of inventive, like weird visuals at times, weird montages, like cool visual effects and stuff. And this movie just is kind of there. It just felt like, again, lots of shots of characters staring at each other, and there was nothing where the cinematography stood out to me as anything special, and like there's not even really a whole lot of incredible animation or anything. Like there's not any really standout moments of something looking incredible that I would never watch this movie again, for sure. Never again. I gave it a 5. What else? Do you have anything else to say about this thing?
There was the one scene when they were kind of having their I love you hug, and you see the one girl's eyes like going crazy while she's processing everything, and I thought that was kind of interesting.
That was the,
I don't know.
Shit, I'm dealing with some gay shit.
Yeah, that's what you said.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like. It's like she didn't realize that she was dealing with some gay shit until that moment. And then she was like, oh, now I get it. And like the way she responds, because the girl is like saying, I love this about you, I love that about you, I love this about you. And she's like, oh, okay. She's like in love with me. So let me just say, I love your oboe playing. Like, I don't feel that way about you. I am not, like, we can still be friends. I like your oboe playing, but let me be clear. I'm not on that gay shit like you are, That was the impression I got for that scene anyways. The sort of a soft letting down of a romantic gesture. Did you get that feeling at all, or am I just crazy?
I mean, obviously she was trying to, like, convey that she loved her. Yeah, I felt that way. It's a fine movie, I guess. It was quite slow.
I just thought it was boring and pointless. Alright, well, if you don't have anything else to say about it, then that's enough about Liz and the Blue Bird.
Nah.
See you in the next one!
Welcome back to Finish or Fail, the most on-brand
stream on twitch.tv. HisoMaso.
HisoMaso.
HisoMaso. We watched all of Hisone to Masotan, and it was interesting. It's like one of the weirdest things I've ever watched. And like not while being like, crazy weird. Just that like the logic and like reasoning behind why things happen in this show is like out to lunch. What do you think about Hisone to Masotan?
I thought it had a really strong first episode with a lot of really interesting backgrounds, really cool character designs.
Yeah.
Very
unique.
Yeah, I was kind of like, I adore the main character because she's kind of quirky and weird, but she's also somebody who always says what's on her mind and in her heart. And she gets into a lot of fun shenanigans, but she always has good intentions. And the dynamic between her and the dragon that she pilots is really adorable. I liked it at first, and they started adding in some side characters, and they're all crazy. They all have their own hang-ups and like completely unrealistic personalities for military personnel. Yeah. Which,
I mean, the show kind of quickly reveals that. I mean, right from the get-go, you've got stuff like that. The dragons eat cell phones, like specifically flip phones.
Yeah.
And so like weird specific logic like that already puts you in the mindset that like, okay, this is like nonsense. Like this, I shouldn't take this too seriously because this world, I mean, it's a fucking dragon that turns into a plane.
The dragon like swallows you, and then somehow it turns into like a mecha dragon that you can pilot.
So it's already, like, daft, and they just kind of run with that.
Yeah.
But, like, when they introduce all these other characters, particularly because we watched the first 4 episodes of this back when it was airing, so we started with episode 5, and that's the one where they were just like left on an island to fend for themselves. And the way that each of the characters reacts to this event, none of them has a rational, normal reaction. They all are totally insane. They're totally off their rockers. And so, at times, the show is so weird, it's hard to relate to, because it's just like, how do you take something away from it? You know, like, you can take away that the characters are quirky and fun, and sometimes they're fun to watch, but other times you're just like, I don't even know how to, like, I don't know how to connect with this character because their personality is so fucking strange that, like, I would never encounter someone like this in real life, right? I don't know the thought process behind their decision making, you know? Mm-hmm. But then at other times when the show isn't quite pushing itself so into the outrageous, it can be more relatable and have more, you know, normal human emotions guiding the plot. But I would say everything is governed by Okada logic. This is a Mari Okada vehicle, and her increasingly over the years she's becoming known for the fact that her shows follow this like emotional logic first and foremost, and everyone sort of blames her upbringing because she wrote an autobiography where it was revealed that her life was completely insane, and so like the stuff that happens in her shows just seems normal from her perspective. But like, yeah, like it's funny because this show has the crying, it has the melodrama, but it's primarily a comedy show, I would say. Like,
yeah,
it's always lighthearted, no matter how like. Even when there's, like, darker undercurrents to the story, it never is, like, brooding. It's never just, like, emotional. There's always, like, a comedic edge to it, and I think that the comedic dialogue is really clever and fun. And, like, it feels smart and snappy and quippy, and the characters have good chemistry together, aside from when they're all just, like, being totally asinine and insane. Do you have any other thoughts while I stew on what I want to talk about next?
Yeah, the characters at first I thought weren't so good like all the other side pilots, but then they have an episode right after they kind of have that mission where they have to escape from the island, and then they go into this episode where one of like the head military guys wants to gather data on like the date, like all the girl talk of all the girls, so
yes.
He uses an issue of Kingdom to
yeah
to tantalize
Kingdom,
one of them to like. He was, like, blackmailing her with it. It was really funny.
This girl's, like, really into the manga Kingdom, which is a real manga that's popular with women. And he, like, creates a trail of pages of the latest issue of Kingdom to, like, lure her away, to then spy on the other girls to find out about their love lives.
Yeah.
Because, basically, if one of them... This is more of the crazy Okada logic, is that... if one of the pilots falls in love, they can no longer pilot the dragon because of some condition that it causes. And so, he wants to beat it to the punch by making them all fall in love and then deliberately breaking their hearts so that they will no longer think about love. And this doesn't work at all. Because, like, none of them is really even thinking about love, but eventually 2 of them do fall in love and it becomes a problem later on.
Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't not work at all. It does sort of work.
How the rules regarding the love thing work is really questionable. Because it's like, you've got, first of all, the fat girl is ostensibly in love with a guy. Like, there's a guy who she's trying to hook up with. Like, I guess it hasn't progressed far enough for it to be considered love, but there is a guy who she's interested in. That doesn't affect her at all. She has no problems with the dragon. And then you've got the other girl who falls in love with the guy, and then he deliberately, like, this is spoilers, by the way. I mean, we've told you we liked the show enough to watch it. She falls in love with the guy who, you know, deliberately, like, says a bunch of dickish things to break her heart. And even though it's still obvious that she still has those feelings for him, she's just trying to forget them, that, I guess, counts. then the main girl just kind of overrides the rule altogether in the end and just is like, oh, well, I care about the dragon the most, so I can convey that and he will let me fly. And that works. But then there's also scenes where, because there's an old lady who pilots for a while, and she like reminisces about this girl who she used to be in love with, and when she like thinks about that, it seems to cause the dragon to reject her.
Mm-hmm. Well, they share thoughts, so like they kind of make it so, I guess if the dragon gets jealous that their attention isn't being directed on like flying the dragon and on somebody else, like then that could happen, I guess.
But then like we see scenes from the past where she clearly was in love and focused on the girl, and the dragon still flew her anyways. So the rules are very convoluted, and ultimately I guess it doesn't really matter, because, I mean, again, the logic of the show is utterly daft. Like, none of it really makes sense. It's just there to facilitate this story. And even then, the story is really loose. That's what makes this show very weird. It's like, I don't really know what exactly the point is, but like it's fun and weird, and it's got cool art and likable. Like the main character is really great. You already
she's top.
Basically
top
said
tier.
why, but I would add on to that. Her voice is one of the best performances of the year. Performed by Masaki Kuno, who is the voice of Serara from Log Horizon. I talked about her. It's funny, in that Log Horizon video I mentioned that like she had played a bunch of roles that I thought were annoying, but that I liked her as Serara. Now I've been hearing her in all these roles where she does great, such as the one from Last Period and this show, which is nothing like her other performances at all. None of that high-pitched obnoxiousness. She's like playing a way... She sounds like Hanakana in her best roles. It reminded me of like watching Kurage Hime for the first time, and like a very similar performance to that. But yeah, great voice acting. There's a bunch of really interesting voices in the show. Really interesting character designs. The super short girl, I fucking love her as well.
Great.
Now, I think is her name.
She has a bunch of cute like all outfits.
Yeah, her fucking jacket with the leopard print is adorable.
I love her personality too. She reminds me of my little sister, because she's kind of a tsundere.
I can see
in all the wrong places.
But the other side characters, like, they have moments where they're fun. They're not that memorable. They kind of disappear into the background. Like the fat girl and the girl who's obsessed with Kingdom, they are like, they have like their moments early on, but then in like the second half of the show they don't really do much.
I mean, when they're on screen, they're funny usually. You get why they need more pilots, because they're doing a lot of shit.
Yeah.
They're fun when they're included. I don't think they needed to do more with those characters, because they're kind of just like work oriented.
Right. It becomes more focused on the characters who have relationships and stakes in the drama. And the Miko girl, who's like a brat who shows
who's
up
a fifth grader,
compete with the
the fifth grade Instagram thought.
Yeah. She is exactly that. There's just so much weirdness in this show, because there's like, if I wanted to talk about what was good or what was bad, it really comes down to like moment to moment experience. Like because the overall show is so loose and so like strange, like I can't really talk about was the plot good or bad. I don't know. Like it's there.
The story went in some really creative places.
Yeah.
It took it up to like 11 for the last 2 episodes, but I was happy that it did that.
It never got too obnoxiously out of hand, because I'd say it stayed about the same level of out of hand. Like, like the ending, it ratcheted up the tension, but it wasn't like harder to believe than what had already happened per se.
Yeah.
I do wish like the internal logic of the whole like love situation had been a little bit more made sense, but like whatever. Again, it's more just creative and weird, and it sticks out in your mind, and it wasn't handled badly enough to be
they
annoying.
don't really understand or like know what's going on, especially with how it how whatever a traumatic event is supposed to happen every so many years. They're like it requires a sacrifice and all this, like all these misconceptions, but like all of that is bullshit. So
Yeah.
the rules, I guess, can be bullshit too.
Sort of the ending is about the main girl kind of being like, well, like, who decided that this is the way we have to do things?
It's not
like,
black and white, and
I also wish that had been a little more difficult to resolve. Just that, like, she's basically like, oh, I guess no one's questioned it, so let's just do it differently and see if it works, and it does pretty easily. And it kind of makes you go, could they not have, did they really not question it?
It's like only every 75 years or so that this
That's
event
true.
happens, and like the other character, the old lady who was around when this happened previously, she like was the only pilot.
Yeah.
And so
how did they do this before the
I don't know, and they
existed?
kept the idea that there had to be a sacrifice like under wraps and stuff. So, you know, it's because those people had all the control of the information, and then somebody dared to go out of the lines because she had so much love for everybody around her. I don't know. I got the point. So
I appreciate I am always a fan of the theme of just like when I am presented with a hypothetical, I will always just choose an answer that, like, if someone's like, oh, if you had to choose between your mom or your brother, which one would you kill? My answer is going to be neither. Yeah. Because, like, I just don't accept the premise that there's no other way. Like,
exactly.
You know, because, like, yes, if I actually was put into that situation, there's a chance that there literally is no other way. But, like, I'm not going to accept that premise until it comes down to it, you know?
And you know, I believe that you would try to fix it without having to come down to that.
And that's basically how the approach that's taken in the end here. It's like, oh, maybe I have to die, but I'm not going to accept that as an idea until it's been proven that is the case, you know? And she does everything she can to resolve it with no one dying, and in the end, she does, because it was possible. And that's all that really the answer is in the end, is like, but, like, it's not like that's a theme throughout the series. It's really just a theme of the last 2 episodes.
I feel like each arc kind of has its own theme and own issues that it addresses. And, like, there's a resolution to everything, which is nice.
It's very much a melting pot of it. I don't think it has any one genre. It's more of an amalgamation. It's more of, like, there's comedy, there's drama, there's, there's action. There's
right there it says this show is heartfelt and imaginative.
Right, that's what it's described as on Netflix. And that's like my favorite type of story, which is why I think I was so engaged with this show in spite of the fact that, like, I love the main character, and that's what hooked me in the beginning. And then I remember some of the early episodes feeling rocky about it, because it was like, I like the characters, but, like, the actual plot and the actual, like, concerns of the plot are not that interesting to me. And so episodes like the romance one, the initial, like, romance one, was probably the best episode just because it didn't really worry about the plot. It was all characterization, and character moments are handled really well. They just, like, moments like when the 2 girls who are both very honest are, like, confronting each other about their feelings, and, like, you just get dialogue you'll never get in another show because the characters have such unique personalities. No one is a cliche in this. No one, maybe you could call the fat girl and the dark girl a little cliched, but, like, everyone has a bit more nuance. They say things that not often get said, and you hear unique conversations. And, like, for me, uniqueness is definitely, like, worth a lot at this point.
Every character in this show is like that. Like, even the people in the background, like the people on the control panel, the officers, they all have their own personalities.
Distinctive. That's the word I would use.
And it all fits together, and, like, you really kind of feel for this whole community on this base, and you're like, these are all great characters, I want them to win.
Yeah.
Even the dragons fucking have personalities. Right.
So I think that's the real strength of the show, is just how distinct it is, how unique it is. The designs are really interesting. I really want to hear the story of how this came together, because it's like Mari Okada and Shinji Higuchi, like, planned this show. That's the guy who was, like, co-founder of Gainax, who directed the Gamera films, and he co-directed Shin Gojira with Hideaki Anno.
Yeah.
He He's listed as a director on this, so there's also another director listed. It's by Studio Bones, which I don't even know if he's ever been involved with. So, like, I really want to know the story of how the hell this show
it's
came
really
together.
interesting because this show just kind of like appeared in the ether because there was like
Yeah.
no information about the show like coming out or anything until it was releasing on Netflix.
Yeah, I really think that maybe just Shinji Higuchi and Mario Kato wanted to do something together, came up with something, she penned a script, and then they just took it to Bones and were like, can we do it? And they were like, all right, like, sure, you guys have, we trust you too, you hit makers, you know? It's definitely, yeah, it's memorable enough. I give it a 7 out of 10. Like, again, like, it has low points. It has moments where I was losing interest or losing focus just because they were just, like, kind of talking about more plot-centric stuff, and the plot is not really interesting. But anytime it was just, like, two characters having a conversation about themselves or about the situation, it was highly enjoyable. Your thoughts? Final
The
thoughts?
show had Best Boy of the Year.
Oh, yeah? Best boy?
Best Boy. He vapes. He's cool. So we just got done watching I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. No, it's not a horror movie. It's a tearjerker, supposedly. I remember people talking about this on Twitter a whole lot, saying, you know, it's an emotional movie, and it recently came to theaters. And I was like, we should go see it. But, I'm glad we didn't, because that movie was absolutely worthless.
Normcore horse shit.
No actual sentiment being created or expressed. It's just a movie that's meant to appeal to
your tear glands. I would say this is a movie that it was exactly what I was afraid it would be, but also like the worst possible extent of what I was afraid
so many
it would be.
movies that use this trope and do something with it, or at least do something effectively, like have characters you actually care about, or, you know, have a romance that makes you actually feel something.
You know, it's funny. So, okay, what this movie's about is a girl is dying of pancreatic, I guess cancer, it's not specified. But her pancreas is failing, and she meets this boy who basically doesn't give a shit, and so she likes him. And she just kind of forces him to hang out with her and do a bunch of things, like just like a bunch of normal ass shit that she wants to do before she dies. And so it's just them
like going bowling.
Yeah.
Who the fuck wants to go bowling when they're dying? Bowling sucks.
It's true.
Bowling might be worse than watching this movie, and there are very few things that I can name. That
I'd way rather go bowling. At least you can drink at a bowling alley.
Bowling is fun for like 2 rounds, but when you get into that 3rd round, you really are like, okay, hurry up, stop going to pee, Mom. This is night time.
The movie is, I mean, we were basically expecting it. I was expecting it to be just The Fault in Our Stars, which I haven't seen, but I know that the girl dies like halfway through, and then it's like the fallout of that. I was expecting pretty much that, because like it's explicit from the start of the movie that she will die.
I mean, it opens with the funeral.
Right, it opens with the funeral, like it's in the trailer, but what I was expecting is she's gonna die halfway through, and then we'll deal with the repercussions. The reality, spoiler alert, is that the reason that they showed that is so that they could later trick you with how she dies. Because she doesn't die from her pancreatic disease. She dies by randomly getting stabbed in the street.
Which is foreshadowed and wasn't surprising. Yeah. Like, I was kind of expecting her to go out in a way that wasn't expected, because throughout the movie she talks about, like, oh, it's not chance, it's because we made the decisions to be where we are, and like everything that happens to us is like our
Our choice.
is a product of our choices.
You say throughout the movie, but it's literally one scene where
times.
she just suddenly brings that up. When is it the first? Like,
I mean, maybe she says that once, but I feel like she brings up or alludes to it multiple times. But they do talk about the stabbing multiple times, and it is kind of like foreshadowed where he'll overhear it through like a TV report or something, and that's how it's revealed to us, and it's like that's fucking corny, like. And
it doesn't, I mean, it means nothing in the end, because, all it's there for is to be shocking twist, she dies earlier than because already we're in a position where there's, scenes where they, fake you out by, oh, she gets hospitalized unexpectedly, what if she's gonna die before you think she's gonna die? And then that's what happens, just in a different way, but, it doesn't change anything about, there's no addressing of the fact that she was stabbed instead. Literally, post her death, it just goes down the road that it would have gone had she just died of the regular disease. And it doesn't even really deal that much with the fallout of it at all. It only really deals with wrapping up the loose ends for the main character. It doesn't really explore anything.
It's just meant to manipulate your emotions because, she's gonna die, but what can be more upsetting than dying the way you're expecting to.
Dying unexpectedly.
Getting stabbed.
Whoa.
No, this innocent girl who's ill gets stabbed. Isn't that sad?
So here's what I was expecting to happen, because in the movie, the main girl is really obnoxious and selfish. And I thought for sure there was going to be some commentary in the end on how selfish she was. Because basically, she takes the fact that she's dying as carte blanche to manipulate people and do whatever she wants.
And emotionally abuse the main character in a sense. That's what's going on.
She basically, she's interested in him from the start, and she reveals in her journal that she was interested in him even beforehand, which she kind of alludes to at one point. So she was already interested in him, but because of the fact that she knew he wouldn't, constantly fret over her, she decides to hang out with him. Even though she kind of likes him, eggs him on consistently, is clearly trying to get him to, feel something towards her so that she can experience some romance before the end.
She gets him drunk, and they go to a hotel room, and she's playing truth or dare with him.
She's trying to fuck him really badly.
Putting him in a really uncomfortable and awkward position because she's somebody who's going to die. Why would he pursue a romantic relationship with somebody like this who is clearly doing something distressing? Even if she's an. Even if he finds redeeming qualities in her, it doesn't change the fact that, she's pressing him against the wall and teasing him and doing all these things to him and has friends who, intervene and basically tell him that he's shit for talking to her. It's
It's weird because
throughout... She doesn't disavow this at all.
No, I kept expecting there to be some kind of criticism of her actions in some way. But it really feels like the movie itself is just oh, well, she was dying. So, what are you gonna not fulfill the wishes of a dying girl? And all I can think is, look, we're all dying. We're all dying all the time. Everybody dies. For some people, it happens unexpectedly and sooner. And it's funny that she even dies of a stabbing, because I was thinking about people who die without expecting it, and they don't have the opportunity to take advantage of people and be a huge cunt like she does, So, for her to know that she's dying and use that as the opportunity to take advantage of people, to manipulate people, she won't tell her friends, so now they're just going to have to deal with the emotional grief of not having known that their friend was dying, of not having the chance to have done anything for her. Because she selfishly has made the decision that, I don't want to have to deal with them treating me differently.
Yeah, she
so
even
I'm not
goes
going
as far as to getting the hospital to
lie to her friends.
Play along and lie to her friends about it, which is just really fucking weird. I kind of get why maybe the thing with her parents, where her parents don't want to bring it up and are difficult to talk about, because that's a realistic thing.
Right.
And I can imagine some people being in that situation, but the fact that she chooses to spend time with and be around people she doesn't trust and thinks are not emotionally capable to deal with her is, like, really kind of questioning. And the fact that she has to go to all these lengths to make one friend that she can actually trust is, like, really fucking
And then
weird.
she just, like, she knows that she is using this guy and that she is gonna just die on him at some point, you know? Like, she is fully aware that she is going to... And then it's weird, too, because in the end, he ends up caring about her, and he tells her as much, and she's like, I'm happy that you care so much. And it's like, okay, well, now you've spoiled the reason, supposedly, that you chose this guy, which is that you didn't want people fretting over you.
You normal. You wanted to have a normal life, and
right.
now the guy is doing the exact opposite of that.
I mean, did she think she couldn't have her, like, that her friends wouldn't do all these things with her?
Yeah,
she was like, oh, Kyoko would cry every time she saw me. And it's like, yeah, but she would do anything you wanted to.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know, I just feel like then maybe choose better friends. And, like, I guess she does go out of her way to make friends with this guy, but...
It's just, it was weird to me that she never seemed to be criticized for the way that she acted at all by the movie. And then the main guy is just a totally unlikable douche for, like, most of the film, until, of course, he falls for her, and then he's just, a nice guy. But, like, he literally rejects all human interaction and is like, I've never had a friend before. I avoid all people, and I keep all my relationships in my own head.
After seeing how his classmates treat him, though, it's kind of like...
It's true.
He, like, says...
There's some big normies moments in this movie.
He says, everybody just thinks I'm that boring class guy or that weirdo. And then the girl's like, oh, well, have you actually talked to any of them? How do you know that? Right. And then they go on to prove that that's exactly how they think about him. It's just like...
Although he does eventually realize that one of the normos is a good guy.
Yeah.
The guy who offered him gum.
He has some character development, and, like, hey, at least it wasn't all for naught. But this movie was fucking worthless.
Yeah.
Like, it did not have a message.
It's just so extreme that he's literally never had a friend before. He's like, oh, I've never had a friend. I only have relationships with people in my own mind, and I'm satisfied with that. And he's just, like, literally just a cold dick all the time. It's really
fucking weird, because his home life is really... His mom seems
to be a normal
nice person. Yeah. And he seems to be somebody who's smart and, like, is responsible. He's, like, the librarian. Like,
yeah.
I don't know why he's such a dick. And, like, some of the things that he says to her early on in the movie, it's like, okay, they're trying to portray this guy as being, like, really over the top.
Well, in the early part of the movie, my immediate impression of both characters was that they were completely insufferable.
Yeah.
Because the girl is just constant overextension of energy, like, whoa, I'm energetic, yeah! And, like, you don't get the sense that she's putting that on because she's dying. She even says at one point, like, she's been this way her whole life. People have always been telling her to, like, settle down and stuff. And it, like... But, like, the way that she's written, it doesn't feel like any real person ever. It's like Manic Pixie Dream Girl level.
Yeah, exactly.
Of, like, just... She's a hyper fun girl who's gonna get this lonely guy out of his shell and show him a fun time and teach him what love is all about, because she literally... Nothing he says can push her away. Like, him being a dick makes her like him more, because she thinks it's funny. I don't know. It's just everything about their relationship pissed me off and was hard to watch.
Not very good.
And, like, in the early part of the movie, I was already like, I really hate this and I want to drop it, but I'm looking forward to if they criticize her in some way.
Yeah.
And then the one scene that was okay in the movie is the hotel scene where...
Which, it feels really awkward and kind of skeevy, but, like, I like how she kind of gets him to come out of his shell by playing Truth or Dare.
Yeah.
And also, okay, so they go into the hotel, and it's, like, sponsored by
the Hilton. It's literally a Hilton hotel.
They go into, like, the super fancy room, which is probably, like, an actual room that they have at this Hilton. Like...
Yeah, and there's also a part where they talk about Uniqlo and...
Yeah.
So, like, this scene... She's basically trying to coerce him into flirting with her.
She brings a ton of alcohol and snacks, and it's like, you should not.
Where did she get the alcohol?
Like, he looks into her bag, and she's like all these pills and like injections, and it's like,
Yeah.
You should probably not be drinking. Like, that's...
The weird part is that she's like, oh, I bought all this stuff. And then she gives him a drink and he tastes it. And he's like, is this alcohol? And, like, how did she get it? They are 17. How'd they even get a room at the Hilton? Like,
Yeah, I don't know.
Didn't we just read a book where they were like, you have to be 18 or something?
You have to be 18 to take out a hotel room.
Right.
I'm pretty sure. At least, like, in certain places, I think that's the case. Maybe it's not the same in Japan.
But, like, yeah, they get a hotel room and, like, she's basically trying to flirt with him the whole time. And it's not really clear what her intentions are or how far she wants it to go. She just really wants him to sleep in the same bed with her, which she eventually gets him to do. But, like, the whole scene is clearly trying to create this atmosphere of, like, will they fuck or won't they? Which then is every other scene from that point forward.
Yeah.
It's always like, oh, is this gonna be the scene where he makes sure she doesn't die a virgin? Or is it gonna go the other way? And, like, it's always, like, cock teasing and then abating, and then cock teasing and abating. And it just feels like smut to me.
They move so far in that night, and, like, I think it was a good way of having these two characters interact in a sort of natural and creative, like, way, because they're playing a game, and, like, it's innocent, and it's, you know, indicative of, I'm sorry, it's like 3 a.m. of like how teenage girls who are like a little unsure how to be sexual, to like kind of you know, put feelers out. And I thought it was fun how they did it, but like they do it again in like the same way later in the movie, and it's like, you've already done the fucking 20 questions game. You can just ask him a question. Like, it's clear that you guys both have feelings for each other, and it's clear that you both have a level of trust. Like,
well, at some point, it became clear to me that this is one of those stories that's written about teenagers by somebody who is, like, using a, like, broad cultural idea of how teenagers act rather than actually...
Like, by having them play Mario Kart on the PlayStation.
Oh, God. There's definitely a part where they play fucking Mario Kart with PlayStation 2 controllers. What were they thinking? But, like, so the way that the like, normie characters act, like, her friend Kyoko is just a bitch. Like, she's like, how can you date this gloomy guy? Like, she's, like, giving her shit throughout the whole movie for, like, being around this dude.
Does she do anything good for the main girl? Do we see her have, like, any beneficial...
We just know that she is her friend. And then there's this douchebag guy who, like...
Her ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, who's, like... I don't even know if that was clear. Like,
yeah,
was he actually?
I think it was.
But, like, he's trying to get with her, and, like, he beats up the main character at one point. And, like, just the way everybody acts is such a, like, generic teen movie idea of... Like, it felt like watching, you know, one of those stupid 80s teen movies.
Yeah.
Like, and I was just like, I don't know if anybody actually acts this way, or if this is just how teenagers act in movies. It seems like it was written
by somebody who was never a teenager and only informed by, like, really cheesy movies.
And, like, they... Even the, you know, the relationship and everything, because there's one part where she basically starts, like, trying to teasingly force herself on him. And then he gets, like, mad and starts trying to force himself on her. And then she, like, cries and he runs away. And the way the scene is portrayed, it just felt like someone trying to, like, logic their way through how teenagers feel. They're like, oh, you know, she does this and that makes him feel this way, and therefore he has this reaction, and then that makes her feel this way, and therefore he has this reaction. But, like, it's like trying to science lab what, like, how emotions play out in a situation, is how it felt to me. Because it's just so unnatural. Like, the characters never just have a conversation. It's always, like, it's always duplicitous. It's always everyone, nobody can be straight with their emotions. Everything has to be, like, you know, everything has to be, like, this gross, weird, complex thing that's like, oh, teens are like this. And I'm like, but they're not. This isn't how people act. You shouldn't
be glorifying it. Like,
no.
At least have repercussions when the character is literally sexually assaulting. They're sexually assaulting each other.
Yeah.
Like,
they both basically assault each other. She does things she's easily as bad as anything Vic Mignogna's ever done to one of his fans.
Yeah.
They do to each other. But,
except for instead of using God,
as far as we
she
know.
uses her
But
illness.
But yeah, the scene.
Fuck.
It's just like the movie feels like it's going on for fucking ever because it takes so long for this bitch to die. And like there's a part where they go to literally the same location as the date from Hibike Euphonium, and the fireworks show happens, and it starts playing the normie music,
Dude,
the movie
like a really
insert
ugly
song.
firework display.
Like it was that was the moment when it like fully became apparent that like this movie is garbage.
Yeah, I didn't want to keep watching after that. I was like, this is
like when it just was like fireworks display and they're hugging and it's playing the music and it's just it just goes on like that. It's just fireworks and gay music and they're hugging, and I was just like, I would have walked out of the theater at this moment. But no, it keeps going. They keep hanging out. It keeps faking you out on when is she gonna die until she finally gets stabbed, and then it just kind of cuts to the repercussions of that. And like at this point, I still would have considered the movie like maybe a 4 out of 10 because like the visuals, while not like impressive, are not bad. The music is generic. There are scenes that were okay. The hotel scene was okay. There's one part where a policeman jumps on a guy and it looks really hilarious, and I liked that. But like, you know, it was just very middle of the road. It wasn't like offensive until after the death when he's reading the book that she left behind. And because of the fact that
she loves the Little Prince.
Because she loves the Little Prince, it goes into like an art style that's like copying the Little Prince.
The most cliche book choice that they could pick. Like,
dude, I called it. No, it was funny as fuck.
Had a made up story.
It was funny as shit because she says to him, "There's a book I've liked ever since I was a child," and I said, The Little Prince. And then she said it right after me, and I laughed so fucking hard. But the crazy part is that, like...
Why couldn't it have been the hairy caterpillar?
Right? Here's the crazy part. So...
Real talk.
She had promised him... After she dies, he says, she broke her promise to tell me when she was gonna die. I broke her promise to give her back the Little Prince. Because he still has it on his shelf. I still have a copy of The Little Prince that my psychologist from like 2011 loaned to me before he died in an unexpected plane crash like a year or two later. And don't ever borrow The Little Prince.
Buy a new one.
Just buy your own copy.
Or torrent a PDF.
Torrent a PDF. I'm pretty sure it's a free fucking... I think
it's probably public domain,
yeah,
which is why they could use it in the movie.
Yeah, and in like every anime ever. But yeah, it was really funny that she was reading The Little Prince. Really surreal that she loaned it to him and then died.
Was that the most moving part of the movie for you?
It was definitely the most like, huh, that's happened to me. But like, then it goes into this weird sequence where it's like fucking 10 minutes of the Little Prince art style, and it doesn't particularly look good, especially because there's all these weird CG trees, and like, it's just
Why couldn't they have been Groot instead?
It's just lofty, emotional dialogue that, like, first of all, isn't telling us anything new.
No.
And second of all, is lame and boring. And it's the kind of scene that I really hate in anime, where it's just sappy music over people saying things about how they feel. Just the worst.
Obvious observations about something that we literally just had to sit through.
And then... So earlier in the movie, there had been a part where she asks the guy for his first name, and they kept it secret from us. So finally, after the Little Prince scene, the girl's mom asks him for his first name, and it turns out that whereas her name was Sakura, his name is Haruki, which means spring tree. Of course, what do spring trees have on them? Sakura. And they make like a huge deal out of this reveal. Like, oh my god, they were destined for each other.
His name was
names
also,
were connected.
His name was Sasuke.
Yeah.
I was gonna say if his name was also Sakura, but I was like, but they could have named him Sasuke.
So, that's basically it. Like, after the death, it's like, we have a scene of him coming to the house, reading the book, the stupid little prince shit for like 10 minutes, and then there's a scene of him meeting her friend in a cafe and like revealing to the friend that, yeah, your bitch friend never told you she was dying, and now you're gonna have to feel guilty about everything you've done for the last year. And then he says like he wants to try to be friends with her because the girl had told him to stop staying in books and go make some friends, and so he resolves to do that, and that's the end. And
I have
just
one
like,
question. Why did he text her, "I want to eat your pancreas"?
Did he?
Yeah, that's the last thing that he texted her.
Well, because the weird part is that
why would he want to eat her diseased pancreas?
Well, that's the thing. It's apparently in Asian culture that is a phrase that you say if somebody is diseased, you say that you want to eat that diseased part out of them.
Oh.
So like that is the common phrase, but weirdly at the start of the movie,
it's that
she says it to him
his pancreas,
on the basis that in some cultures you are supposed to eat the part that you have that is diseased. So like, it's like a reversal on what would be the common phrase. So, like, it's just an excuse for them to both want to say the title of the movie in really cheesy ways.
What I learned from this movie, cannibalism and rape is bad.
This was terrible, normie trash.
Worthless.
What do you give it?
2 to 3.
I think I have to give
probably
it...
a 2. I can't really think of many redeeming things about it. I don't think the shot composition was very interesting. I hated the music. I thought a lot of it looked like shit. The fireworks looked like shit. The hotel scene was, I guess,
I probably have to give it a
cool.
3 because when I think about what I've given a 2 to, it offends me more. Like Psycho-Pass 2 or Steins Gate 0.
I don't know, man. I was pissed off at this movie. I wanted to fucking like it.
Did you hate it more than Steins Gate 0?
I mean, I didn't expect
Sophie's
to like
choice.
Steins Gate 0 though, because like I saw the character designs and I'm like, there's no way this is gonna be as good.
Yeah.
What are they gonna do to make Steins Gate 0 like better? But this one, it's like, this is the most cliche fucking type of movie there is.
Yeah.
And it sucks.
It was shocking that, like, because when I heard the premise, I assumed it would be cliche, tear-jerking.
Okay, this movie didn't make me cry. But I literally cried for like 5 minutes straight during Zombieland Saga.
Yeah.
Like, if this movie couldn't make me cry...
I was just shocked that it was so bad at doing something so generic and simple.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you fuck up the easiest tear porn movie possible? But, you know... Studio Voln, what the fuck? I don't think they've made anything good yet.
Didn't they make the circus anime?
Yeah, the Karakuri Circus anime.
What the fuck are you doing? Step up your game.
I mean, Maruyama's an old man.
I don't know, man. People went to go see this movie in theaters. People talked about how good it was.
I bet this was fucking... I bet people love this movie. Because it's fucking normie trash. Like, it's the same shit. It's just tear porn. And, like, if it made anybody cry, people will give anything that makes them cry a fucking 10. And, like, not only did this not make me cry, because I was rolling my eyes constantly and I hated the characters, but, like, even if it did make me cry, like, I don't think that's worth something. You know?
One time I cried because I ate a gingerbread cookie and I felt bad because I killed him. I wouldn't give that experience a 10.
Alright, well...
You shouldn't either.
Oh, did you want to finish your last bit on Hisone to Masotan when we got cut off by the camera?
Just that he was a good boy. He vapes, which is cool. Not that that gives him any waifu points, but yeah, I give it a strong 7. It was a good show. It was definitely heartwarming and creative, as per the Netflix description.
Yeah.
This movie, though, blew ass.
Alright, well, this is going to be over an hour long episode of Finish or Fail, so we'll call it there. See you in the next one.